Right, we live. Live, we live. Ready, ready, ready. Uh, out. Got a lot of updates, a lot of stuff we got before we get into topics, but there is a good amount of stuff going on. Let's send out the trumpet call. Battery line. Oh, you can't send the Discord out. Discord. That does make it exceedingly difficult. Server. Server. Specialist. Good to see him. I'm happy he's Wingers. Pawns fans. Good. So I know when to thank a bot or not for following me. Checking follower count. See how much bought him. Oh, there was no follow bot Discord. Do it. Join it. If you're new to the stream, please follow. If you're not a subscriber and you want to subscribe, please subscribe. If you don't want to put any of your own money into a subscription, then all you have to do is attach your Twitch Prime account to your Amazon Prime account, or your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account, and then you get a free 1 subscription. I hope you do it to me. But we got a lot of stuff coming up. We got a lot of discussions. I hope you guys enjoyed this weekend stream. That was a pretty good debate. It's very weird for me to be the furthest right person on a panel. I'm relatively left for America. I'm not a straight up socialist or communist, but I am I'm pretty left. So being the furthest right on that stream was interesting. So from that stream, we got some interesting stuff. We have sometime this week, we will hopefully be talking to KB Sumer. We're finally going to have the socialism versus social democracy economics. She's working, and she said she will let me know her time sometime today for the rest of the week. Also, if you tuned in for the debate, a Blind Tio, who was the guy on the, if you were watching my stream, he was the second from the right there, or if you're watching somebody else's stream, he was the blind guy. I was talking to him. We will either have a conversation with him toward the end of this week or early next week. We also have I'm also talking to North Countryman. We're still trying to figure out if what we're going to have a conversation on, whether it's going to be on Hans's chess timer debate, or whether it just because the last thing, let's see what the last set of topics I spoke to. So the last conversation we had, he said he wanted to do legislative compromise and bipartisanship, which the infrastructure can stand in for, reform of resolution, role of tradition and in politics. So these were all things that we were discussing. I told him, look, I don't even care if it's not directly a debate. I like talking to him. He might be my favorite right winger. Um, and I would have to have I like to just have a conversation with him. So I'm still working that out. So either we will have a stream maybe over the weekend. I'm being talking to him, or we'll be on Hans's thing, but I'll keep you updated on that. That's in the works. If there is a topic that you would like me to discuss with him, whether it is just me talking to him, or it is a something you'd like to see for the debate, please let me know. The way you can do that is you can do it through the Discord. You can do it on Twitter at Faces Ideas. You can do it by being in this chat, which obviously if you're hearing this, you can do this. But if you're hearing this on YouTube, then you can hear it through twitch.tv/freshfacesnewideas. Or you can do it on YouTube. You can let me a comment there. So there's those things there. Also, Thursday, I believe we're doing Crowdsourced Politics stream. He has his debate. I know they didn't do it last week. I was talking to him about it. I'm still waiting for confirmation on that. I believe that will be Thursday. Thursday, we might also do the TO debate. So Thursday might just be debate day. The TO thing isn't even a debate. He said he was a either a pacifist anarchist or or some type of religious anarchist. I didn't understand what he was talking about, and I'm just curious. Like libertarian and anarchist ideologies, generally, if someone wants to come on and explain an ideology, I'm willing to listen. Mostly just, to learn more about it, so that also the audience, can learn more about it. That is part of the goal. What other things do we have? We have we should this Sunday as well, around 5:30. That should be the independent thought. The independent thought debate. That would be, there's 5 people on that, and as of right now, I know it is me, him, and Hardwood Sock. I don't know who anyone else is about it. He said he is still. So we should have something like. We could possibly have 5 or 6 debates, or conversations with people this week. That would be a lot. I'm not ultimately like a debate bro, but I have no problem having conversations with people if it turns into debates. I think I'm pretty smart. So there's that. As for today, we're going into the COVID stuff. There's a lot of COVID misinformation. Actually, this isn't even COVID misinformation. Just outright propaganda. There, that's outright propaganda. Coming from Dinesh D'Souza. I spent the weekend, just tweeting at people. I do hope we get to watch. I do hope to tell you that the basketball pod will be soon. I did spend 6 hours yesterday watching Summer League. I saw the Knicks game play Toronto. I watched Houston play Cleveland, and I watched most of Oklahoma City playing Pistons. Houston's gonna be good. Jalen Green is. So when we have a pod for that, I will let you guys know. As for today, we have a Dan Bongino thing on Rumble, because Dinesh D'Souza is he's just a propagandist, just talking nonsense. We'll see what this video is about. It's about nonsense. We have a lot of anti-COVID stuff. This is very simple. It is a death cult. These people are. I had a woman over the weekend argued that somebody was lying to me, and that they were lying to me, and I was like, look, you gave me maybe 60 cases. If that is true, it's nowhere near enough to truly counteract the damage that COVID does. And then somebody tried to argue with me about and then she was arguing, well, it's like, yeah, someone's lying to you. I'm like, who is lying to me? Explain it to me. And then someone was arguing for ivermectin. And I said, okay, listen, do not take ivermectin. It is literally horse paste. This is not even a joke. Ivermectin is horse paste. It is not, first off, you should not be taking animal pills, especially for one that is that much bigger than humans. It is going to fuck you up. Even if it's somehow intended for dealing with whatever you're taking. It's a horse paste dewormer. Do not take it. It will cause problems. And the people they're citing for this is the Center for frontline doctors, who are just quacks. They just popped up with the hydroxy thing. They were wrong on hydroxy. There was study after study that showed hydroxy was basically neutral at best, and detrimental at worst. This was Stella Emanuel's. Their lawsuit is nonsense. It is. I looked at it. We looked at it for like 10 minutes, and it is nonsense. I don't even remember if I saved it. I might have saved it. Yes, I did. I did save it. So yes, if you want to take a look at that lawsuit and break the breakdown of it, please just go to the Discord, and then you can enjoy it and you can laugh about it. Also, if you want to discuss the merits of it or anything like that, you can subscribe, and we can have our conspiracy theory episode. So that will be for subscribers only, and what that will entail is any conspiracy theory. Well, within reason. We're not going into like Jews control the world. But we'll do. If you're a QAnon guy, I want to talk to a QAnon person so bad. I'm sure my head will explode and I will, be dumber, and so will everyone else for being part of the conversation. But I'll do it. I want to talk to just one person, just to figure it out. I think it's a one-time experience that everyone should have. Did David Stern rig the whatever year Patrick Ewing came out so that the Knicks can get him, or things like that. Is the Earth flat? That's what we'll have a conspiracy for. So we're there with that. Some of the other things that people are arguing with me about this is, they keep saying, do you believe that these corporations are out for profit? Of course they are. If your argument is that we can't do it because they're out for profit, well, what products are you taking that aren't for a corporation that's out for profit? Also, if your argument is we need to not make sure these corporations are making profit, nationalize them. That's the answer to that question. Which person case the person worked on. The other thing is, this is very important, and I'm going to keep saying this, especially as more people pull in. As you see Jenna Ellis tweeting a lot about stuff, because apparently Donald Trump had an interview with Dan Bongino. One of the highlights of that interview was Donald Trump in the middle of it said, "Could you imagine if I was president right now during this surge? Do you know what they would be saying?" And the answer is, there's 400,000 Americans who would tell you, who couldn't be reached for comment because Donald Trump was president during a worse surge. The deaths were significantly worse. Now look, my defense for Donald Trump is always going to be twofold. Nobody thought he would stop every single person from dying from COVID. That's just unrealistic. We didn't have to be number one, and people still don't have to be dying. The reason I bring this up is apparently during this interview, Fox edited out whatever he was saying about the election. Jenna Ellis is saying, "Well, why aren't they telling us the truth when Donald Trump is talking factual?" Anytime you see Jenna Ellis tweet something, or one of these other conservatives, ask them. Because these are the people who claim they have proof. Ask them where their proof is. And if they don't have proof, or if they have this proof, why aren't they bringing it to courts? If they have this proof, by not bringing it forward, by not showing it to the courts, or any way to overturn the election in a real way, which is not a thing that can happen, they are allowing this lie to go, and they're hurting the country. Look, you want the real proof that there's no way that this election was rigged. Two massive bombshells happened. Tucker Carlson was talking about Maricopa County, or he was talking about Fulton County, and he said that there was thousands and thousands and thousands of mail-in ballots, or thousands of ballots that were just incorrectly done in Fulton County. Remember this. That segment was the only time that was brought up. One time on Tucker Carlson for one segment. You would think that the number one broadcaster, the most watched broadcaster in the country, if he had this statement and had the facts for this would be the number one story on that news network. But it wasn't. because Tucker Carlson exists in his own fascist white supremacist bubble that is separate from what Fox says. And that's why when he says something, a lot of times it doesn't get echoed through Fox because it's full of shit. The other one was, remember, during the audit, the election audit, they said that there was 74,000 votes that they couldn't account for. And this was blasted all over Twitter. This was everywhere. They were saying this is proof that that we need more audits. Then it turned out that they just didn't understand the data that they were looking at. They didn't understand that at one point they stopped keeping track of certain mail-in ballots because that ended. But other people came in and started putting their numbers, started voting early. And there was a separate count that kept track of the ballots that they couldn't find. And that was pretty much the data. So there's that on well. So these people, the more they lie about this, the more they're going to build up things like January 6th because their base is primed for it. And that's just the way it works. Primed for violence because they're ready for it. They're primed for violence against immigrants because they're constantly being told that immigrants bring COVID. They're being told that immigrants are taking their jobs. They're being told that immigrants are dirty, that they hate America, that they're terrorists. All this nonsense. Anyone who is saying that they are, a fan of the Jews or is an ally of the Jews because they just support Israel unequivocally should be outraged at Tucker Carlson advocating for doing things like Viktor Orban, who has basically created a right Christian ethno-state. So that is what we're dealing with. Those things here. So now, what are we covering today? We have Dan Bongino just lying his ass off based on a paper because they don't understand how wokeism is, and there's no facts in this. Then we have a lot of COVID stuff. We have Florida should be treated like another country. We have children in Louisiana. We have Rand Paul actively going to get people killed, and then we go to infrastructure. So the infrastructure stuff we have is Josh Hawley proving that he's not a populist. We have Maria Bartiromo getting mad at Senator Kramer. Then we have the currently released information on the $3.5 trillion budget resolution, and then we have the ability for the Democrats to light it on fire. We have Marjorie Taylor Greene not understanding how the Green New Deal works, and we have some actually terrifying climate information, legitimately terrifying. I woke up and I read some of it, and it pretty much ruined my day. So we'll cover some of that. But yeah, let's get to Dan Bongino and this lying sack of shit. This goofball who just is full of garbage. So this is on Rumble, which for those of you who still remember, on Queso, she apparently would do Rumble, Rumble content. So let's see what Dan Bongino has to say. This is Dan Bongino tears apart Democrat lies one by one.
About something first. I want to talk about the Democrats, their love affair with lying, and the burden of carrying all those lies.
I'll give that a second to see if that's a real person, and then I will say thank you.
It's all the time. This was addressed this week in a spectacular piece. It's a must-read by Victor Davis Hanson called "The Crushing Weight of Lies."
Okay, well, let's take a look at this, because I found this piece. It was not hard. I just literally Googled it. Called "The Crushing Weight of Lies." One reason why I remain optimistic about the impending end of wokeism and the failure of the Cultural Revolution is that the dangers they pose are unsustainable. Now, let's be clear about something. This idea that, this person, Manoli Naya, is not a real person, so fuck that person. This idea that the Cultural Revolution is dangerous and it's going to fail is just not true. No, I'm not a flat earther. But if you want to discuss flat earth theory, then you can subscribe to the channel, and when we do our conspiracy theory discussion, you're more than welcome to be part of it. is because the Cultural Revolution is constantly kicking the right in the face. Black people are getting more rights, gay people are getting more rights, trans people are getting more rights, women's are getting more rights. This has not created the collapse of our society. This has actually made us better. All right. So here, this first part, Star Trek John Gill. I don't know what that means. Right, nobody had, well, kind of. It depends on where you are. But this idea that allowing them to have equal rights is going to cause an unsustainable reaction that would destroy the country is just nonsense. It's fear-mongering. No, they don't. There are literally laws that were passed that say that they don't have equal rights. So here is this guy is complaining about Joe Biden's mental capacity. What is this? So here's the other one, the border. So the open border will take years to fix. We'll suffer trillions of dollars in entitlement cost and legal, educational, food, housing, and transportation assistance to accommodate the 8 to 10 million who during this administration will cross illegally into the U.S. This is a projection. It might actually be higher. There might be way more immigration depending on how things go over the next couple of years. And I guarantee you there will probably be more immigration just because of what is going to happen. But an open border cannot be hidden by the media forever. The consequences of allowing those whose first act is to break the U.S. law, second is to reside illegally in the U.S., and third is to fabricate identification to perpetuate their illegal residence will force Americans to finally close the border. The idea that we can close this border is so laughably stupid that it is painful. You cannot close the border to Mexico because you will destroy the trade for that area. It just will not work that way. This is stupid and it will never happen. This is their new argument for why they should impeach Joe Biden. It is also nonsense. Because, and here's why. So far, Biden has offered no defense of this open border policy other than to blame Trump's closed border policy and cry racism. Now, this is not true for a number of reasons. Is because we don't have an open border policy. If someone here can actually explain to me the differences between Joe Biden's policies and Donald Trump's policies, I would be shocked because there's not many. The actual issue that's happening down on our border is different than open borders. There is a lot of underlying factors that are causing this surge of migration. And let's guess, those factors are going to become worse. They just are. And this is something we've known about for a long time that's going to cause it to get worse. So the Democratic Party is ever so slowly alienating tens of thousands of voters of all race, religion, ethnicity, and some seems oblivious in their arrogance to sort of come on. Why? Why are they out alienating these people? Because people are coming in by our own laws. If you want to deal with the overcrowding and the actual issue down at the border, then what needs to happen is you need to revamp the way that our immigration system works in order to allow for faster judges to make decisions so that they can come in through asylum or be thrown out, because that's how it works. Most asylum cases are thrown out and those people are forced to leave. If you want to speed up the number of people removed from this country, that is how you do it. There's nobody's arguing. One of the wages of illegal immigration, gangs, crimes, overtax, over services, poor schools fall most heavily in Hispanic American. Well, let's just talk about this. Wages of illegal immigration. If we want to deal with that, who is at fault? Is it the immigrants, or is it the companies that hire them at these wages and then threaten them with ICE for doing it? Well, if you're an idiot, you say it's the immigrants. if you actually want to deal with the issue, you would say obviously that it was a thing that actually did it. That's just. Did we? Okay, I don't know what just happened there. Gangs, a lot of them come from jails. Crime, immigrants statistically do not cause more crime than native-born people. They actually cause less. Okay. This is actually true. There's no such thing as an unprecedented nefarious whiteness because the concept of whiteness is constantly expanding. Italians weren't considered white originally. You can pass for white. That's why there's the one drop rule. United States of Yugoslavia. We knew Yugoslavia would soon be assessed not just our superficial appearance, but the sum total of a resulting stereotyping good and bad victimization, and victimizing. When Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin defended his woke radical internal audits and states the U.S. military should, in all respects, look and mirror image demographics, does this extend to the battlefield? Now, before I get to this insanely stupid and baby brain take that's going to be occurred, let's work this down. His defense's woke radical internal audits. What are those internal audits? Well, if you ask a conservative who only listens to far right things, you will hear that they are purging the military of conservatives and Trump supporters because they hate you for voting for Donald Trump. This is equivocally untrue. What it actually is looking into the people who have ties to white supremacy and neo-Nazi groups, something that the military does have an issue with, something that was pointed out for both the military and the police force about a decade ago, and is now being looked into. Now, let's deal with this stupid. If by that I mean white males currently make up about 35% of the U.S. population, at least to the degree in our multiracial society, anyone is really white, brown, or black. So in our multiracial male and female military, are we expected that whites will be 35% of those that die in Afghanistan and Iraq in proper proportional numbers? The answer to that is no, and of course not. What is this thought process? Your argument is, we're going to have exactly this much of our military represented by how much they are in the population, and then we just have to make sure they all die that way. First off, no, that is nonsense. Nobody has ever argued for that in any way, shape, or form. This is a complete straw man that this guy is shadowboxing with. Well, General Lloyd, because first off, we're pulling out of those places anyway. Well, General Austin's mentality becomes so entrenched that at some point in such wars, he or his successors will say, I'm pulling back racial group A because it's met its quota of death on the battlefield. This is just unbelievable nonsense. Translated as such, a woke chair of the Joint Chiefs would say, oops, 82% of the combat deaths in Iraq were white males, and that doesn't begin to look like America when they're only 35%. I mean, most Americans more or less support the idea of natural diversity that is within general parameters, professions, jobs, and downtime reflects a multiracial society. They don't get worked up. This is all just fear-mongering. Professional sports are bleeding viewers not because whites are a majority of the country, but by a distinct minority in professional sports. The culprit instead is the fact that the athletes are becoming political weaponized. Translations, I mean it's unprofitable and unsustainable for multi-million-a-year players who do not reflect percentage-wise the demographic of America to scream demonstrate or virtue signal their charges of racism against a largely middle-class, well-off viewership. This is just, look, I don't know who this guy is. Apparently he's some conservative writer from what I've seen. We're all dumber now for having read this. I apologize. But I need you to understand where the basis for what we're about to look at came from.
Hansen's optimistic that the crushing burden on the Democrat Party to continue to lie to the American people is going to be exposed shortly. As he states in the opening paragraph of the piece, he says, one reason I remain optimistic about the impending end of wokeism and the failure of the Cultural Revolution is that the dangers they pose are unsustainable. And by that, I mean they require such dissimulation that the load of lies eventually will snap the spine of those asked.
So let's talk about, just very quickly, cognitive dissonance. The major issues that are currently we're currently looking at: COVID, climate change, the election. All three of those, you to be a conservative, you have to have two conflicting thoughts in your head at a very minimum. Let's go with climate change. Climate change is a hoax. But all the deaths are actually because of Democrats, and we need to drill more. The Green New Deal is communism, but we can give subsidies to oil companies and all of that. What else? All the scientists in the world, this is actually a common thread for all of them, is all the scientists are actually secretly against you, except for these other few heroic heroes who are totally not. So there's that. As for COVID, you have to have like multiple conflicting thoughts to get to this. We have COVID is a hoax. COVID is those 600,000 people died. The vaccine is going to kill you. But Trump did great on COVID. You're not allowed to talk about the side effects, even though they're on the labels for the vaccines. They're looking into them, and Donald Trump deserves all the credit for the vaccine rollout, even though he did a bad job of it, and deserves credit for the vaccine, even though it's going to kill you. On January 6th, the people who attacked the Capitol are both political prisoners. They represent every Trump supporter. They were peaceful. They were they were just here to talk about their grievances. They were in single file, while also being Antifas, Black Lives Matter. They were gunned down by an overarching government that was somehow Joe Biden's, and even though he hadn't been inaugurated yet. These things are just, you can't hold these thoughts together. So this is the party that is arguing that lies will cause you to collapse because you can't carry so many.
To carry and disseminate them. So what are the things they're openly lying about? Well, first is obviously immigration. Did you see this tweet by our own Bill Melugin? He's actually down at the border, folks. Like, he's there. He can see it with his own eyes. He tweeted this week that the city of McAllen, Texas, says the federal government.
So we covered this. This Bill Melugin. He's lying to you. So what happened is he took a bulletin that the city of McAllen put out. So they did actually declare an emergency. What he's saying is they're just allowing COVID-infested immigrants to just walk around McAllen, and that they're just coming in and they're just free to do whatever. However, his defense of this, if you read the next paragraph, tells you an entirely different story. What it tells you is they're being tested by a Christian human rights group. And what happens is, if they test positive for it, they are then put into a quarantine facility outside of the city until they are no longer positive. This is literally in the next paragraph of his defense. You can go look back over the VOD. I've shown you this. He is lying to you. This is just not being truthful.
It's released over 7,000 COVID-positive migrants into their city since February, including over 1,500 new infected migrants in just the last week alone. Local state of disaster in McAllen has been declared. It's not Melugin lying. It's someone else. Look at this video, by the way. Your eyes lying to you, or Bill Melugin's eyes lying to him? This is people piling out of buses into McAllen, Texas. You see it right there on your screen. This wasn't some AI.
Catholic Charities. This is the Catholic charity I was telling you about. Those people are part of this. How you doing, DFK? They're part of here. They're going to this charity. This charity is doing a humanitarian respite center. This is what they're dealing with. They're working through them. They're not just roaming the street. I've been better.
That created this. So who do you believe? Your eyeballs or Jen Psaki and the Biden administration? Take a look at this.
Does the president think his immigration plan is working?
Well, the president continues to convey to anyone, as you've said, who wants to come to the United States, now is not the time to come. It is not the time to come and try to go through irregular migration. We're still at work on and improving a process and improving a system that was very broken when we took office.
Folks, we have no border, okay? Let's just be candid and stop the insanity.
That is an insane statement, and it is not factually true.
Please. The southern border's been entirely evaporated by the Biden administration. You can waltz right in here. And Jen Psaki is trying.
They say this while simultaneously pointing to the highest numbers of arrests by Border Patrol. So you can both walk in without being stopped, but they're arresting more people than ever. Again, cognitive dissonance. That's all this is.
To deflect from that question because she knows it's going to be electorally damaging in 2022. It's a lie, but she carries the lie all the time. And what's Joe Biden up to? Is he telling the truth? No, the truth and Joe Biden, they don't mix. They're like oil and water. Joe Biden's busy blaming other people, notably Republican governors, and that's not an accident, Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott.
Some governors.
So we'll get to what's going on in COVID with Texas in a minute. Or not Texas, with Florida in a minute.
Aren't willing to do the right thing to beat this pandemic, then they should allow businesses and universities who want to do the right thing to be able to do it. I say to these governors, please help. But if you aren't going to help, at least get out of the way of the people who are trying to do the right thing.
The incredible irony of this failed president attacking the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, about his handling of coronavirus at their border in Texas while promoting open borders himself.
Joe Biden is not promoting open borders anytime he says this is objectively a lie. Now, what is Greg Abbott doing to fight Texas? He is currently not allowing mask mandates. There's something like 40 open hospital beds across Texas. There was I think that kid was the 16-month-old that got COVID was in Texas. That one that had to be airlifted out of the state. They have among the lowest vaccinations in the country. They're not actually doing anything to fight the virus. They're just blaming immigrants.
Oh, I mean, if this doesn't get under your skin, nothing ever will. Also, how disturbing to attack the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, who's had a relatively good track record in his hand.
Until now. So this was published on yesterday. During last week, Florida set its all-time record for COVID cases 4 times. There's currently it's either 74 or 84 children in the hospital for COVID. In Florida, they're responsible for like 20% of all the cases in the country. The death spike is coming, as it has come with every single variant. While it might not be as severe as some of the others, that's a variation of we do have some better treatments now. We also aren't entirely sure how much deadlier the Delta variant is, and that's not even talking about what's coming down the pipe with Lambda and possibly Delta Plus, which I don't even understand where that is.
Of the coronavirus in his state, my home state of Florida. How do I know that? Because I believe in this thing called numbers. Here it is, Florida. Listen, every death is tragic, folks, no doubt. It's a serious.
Look, also when you're comparing deaths, New York and California, I don't know why California still have an issue, were hit at the beginning. And New York didn't do a good job with COVID either. And I don't care about the per capita numbers.
Crisis. But where does Florida rank when you measure deaths per capita per 100,000 people? They rank 25th. Who's at the top? New Jersey and New York City, and Massachusetts, by the way. New Jersey and New York City led by, yes, Democrats. But yeah, he focuses all of his ire on Ron DeSantis and Greg.
New York is like 80% vaccinated. Or at least the city is. New York is, I think the state itself is 70%. And New York City is like 80%. So the number one vaccinated area is the Navajo Nation. They're 91% vaccinated. 91%. They would lead the world if they were their own separate country.
Abbott. The burden of carrying these lies all the time. The good news is Ron DeSantis wasn't having any of it.
Joe Biden suggests that if you don't do lockdown policies, then you should, quote, get out.
Joe Biden did not say that. Again, this is another lie. Nobody's advocating for lockdowns. They keep using this as a fear tactic in the same way that they use coming for your guns. Although, look, after today, I think we might need to lock down once or twice a year just to not to burn alive. That'll be another story. They're not dealing with COVID by saying go to lockdowns. What he's talking about is the fact that Ron DeSantis is currently being sued because if he does not, if a school mandates masks, he will cut the funding from that school.
Out of the way. But let me tell you this, if you're coming after the rights of parents in Florida, I'm standing in your way. If you're trying to restrict people, impose mandates, if you're trying to ruin their jobs and their livelihoods and their small business, if you are trying to lock people down, I am standing in your way.
The only lockdowns that took place in this country over COVID were during the Trump administration. This is a very conveniently forgotten thing. Basically, everything that happened in the last 4 years don't exist.
And I'm standing for the people of Florida. So why don't you do your job? Why don't you get this border secure? And until you do that, I don't want to hear a blip about COVID from you. Thank you.
The endless lies, the deception. There's an opportunity cost to this.
So far, Dan Bongino has given us one fact. Literally one fact. It is an intensely cherry-picked fact, and I'm not sure how accurate it is or up to date it is. Because Florida doesn't report the same way other states do. I did not get invited to Barack Obama's party. And it was, we don't know anything about whether it's a COVID party. This is the dumbest talk about it. I don't give a shit. The people who lose their fucking minds about it you didn't care about the Sturgis rally. You didn't care about any of Donald Trump's parties. You don't care about any of his any of the GOP gatherings. If you don't give a shit about that, you don't get to complain about Obama. You're either consistent or you shut the hell up and nobody gives a shit.
It's preventing us from focusing on what really matters here. Treatments, therapeutics, public education. They're not doing any of that. They're too busy lying.
Yeah, he also isn't requiring people to be vaccinated in a low transmission area. Donald Trump is the only living president who did not do that PSA in order to help get people vaccinated. The only one.
And the final lie. Imagine carrying the burden of this lie. The lie that the crime wave in liberal cities, that was just a summer thing.
Okay, first off, it is not just liberal cities. Cities tend to be more liberal because that's where more people gather. And the more people that gather in certain places, the more likely they vote Democrat because those are generally better policies. As for just liberal cities, that implies that every area, every city is its own bubbled ecosystem, which wouldn't be true. Crime is rising across the country to varying degrees, similar to inflation. Inflation is also rising across the country. It has nothing to do with the spending. It has to do with the fact that supply chains are still disrupted due to the pandemic. Crime is rising for a plethora of reasons. Is it a problem? Hell yes. Is it because of defund the police? No, you fucking idiots. Defund the police is essentially not a thing that's happened. If you want to talk about defund the police, the only people who have done it, statistically, on a massive scale, are Republicans. What am I talking about? The American Rescue Plan. The American Rescue Plan provided funds for every state in order to pay their federal workers. You know who a federal worker is? It is a police officer. Every single Republican voted against that. Therefore, every single Republican voted to defund the police. This is not word games. I'm telling you the truth. If you don't like it, you should stop listening to propaganda.
Crime is historically rises during the summer. And as we emerge from this pandemic, summer spike may even be more pronounced than it usually would be.
We see spikes in violent crime typically during summer months, often, unfortunately, during holiday weekends.
This is an obvious lie. They must think you're idiots. The numbers don't lie. People are seeing it. Some of these people have been victims. Look at this. Murder rates in liberal-run cities from 2020 to now.
Hold on. Both Chicago and Dallas are down. Both Chicago and Dallas are down. Also, you can't compare last year to pretty much any statistical. You can't use last year basically as any type of statistical outlier measurement for any of the previous years because it was a statistical outlier. First off, so apparently, according to the own data that they're arguing, Chicago is down, even though we're told Chicago is like the worst place in the country. Democrats are like the proof that gun control doesn't work because of Chicago. Therefore, your own data is now proving you wrong. The reason you can't compare last year to pretty much anything else is because we actually were locked down. That throws off any type of data. You would have to compare this to 2019. And I imagine the numbers are still up. And there are ways to deal around this. Oh, it's also down in Milwaukee. It is down in... Oh, look at that! It's down in New York City. Fucking idiot.
85% up, 96% up 30%, 52%, 82%. Portland, 327%. These are real people. These are real lives. These aren't statistics.
Yeah, part of the problem with Portland is there's a lot of Nazis in Portland. And also, the police department is fucked. They were told by outside groups, they were told by by the mayor, and they were told by the courts that they were using overwhelming force, and that wasn't required to deal with the protest. And their response was, "Fuck you, I quit." Good. In the same way that any person who's requiring to be vaccinated quits, they shouldn't be. You should not be in those positions if you're being told that you're using too much force, and then that's why you quit.
Folks, 2022 can't come quickly enough. Your family matters. The country matters. And the truth matters. It's time for this party to step up and tell the American people the truth. We can...
Okay, so let's do a quick recap of this. We got about 4 statistics in this, and the ones that were there were cherry-picked or didn't entirely prove the point that he was making. Everything we saw here was pretty much essentially a lie. It's all spin. You know what you also didn't hear? You didn't hear any solutions. I was arguing with somebody about this today, or yesterday. There is no Republican solution for pretty much any problem we have, other than close the border, build the wall. That's about it. All right, so let's see. Oh, we're going on to Florida. So now we're talking about. Remember, we can't say anything bad about DeSantis because apparently he's doing a fantastic job dealing with COVID, right? Well, let's see if that's true.
The viral load in Florida is so high right now. There are only really 2 places on the planet where it's higher. One is Louisiana, and the other is Botswana. It's so high in Florida that I think that if Florida were another country, we would have to consider banning travel from Florida to the United States. He needs to understand that he's painted himself.
Florida is the 3rd highest concentration of the virus on the planet behind Louisiana and Botswana. I'm pretty sure Botswana is like a 3rd world country. But 2 of the 3 highest concentrations are in this country. And they're Republican states. But it's Joe Biden's fault. Ron DeSantis is doing a great job. 134,000 cases. 43% increase in deaths.
People are dying in Florida. It's going to get much worse. The hospitals are filling.
Children
with people
as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Florida leads the country in the number of hospitalized children. He has to back off a little bit, allow localities to do the right thing, to mask up, to even close businesses down. I've said this before. If you are in Florida now and you are unvaccinated, you are very likely going to get COVID. If you are in Florida and you are unvaccinated, Do not go in to a bar or a restaurant. You will absolutely contract this virus.
All right, Dr. Reiner, we could go on, and we probably...
Okay? That's what we're looking at in Florida. Let's take a look at Louisiana. More than 3,000 Louisiana children test positive for COVID in just 4 days. We're seeing this across the country. In states that are opening up and not allowing mask mandates, do you see this? Why is it like this? More than 3,000 Louisiana children tested positive for the coronavirus in just a few days. Governor General Bell Edwards updated the state on Friday. More than 6,000 Louisianans now have COVID-19 since the pandemic. This is affecting children of all ages in just 4 days. 3,439 children have tested positive. Remember this. This is Edwards stressed that this is why children should be wearing masks when they return to school. 0% of children under 12 are vaccinated. Only 13% of children between 12 and 18 are vaccinated. In June, the average age of child admitted to COVID-19 was 16-year-olds, according to Oshire. In July, the average age dropped to 12. So, do you still think children don't get COVID? You are still wrong. If you still think children can't die from this, you are still wrong. You put a mask on a child because it is safer for them and it is safer for the people around them. Unfortunately, we don't have the ability to put a vaccine in them. And when we do, we will. And if you're a child and you're between the years of 12 and 18, there's resources to help you get vaccinated if your parents will not allow you to. Please look into them. Please get vaccinated. For a child to get this disease and have to deal with long COVID is a disaster to their health and their life. Hold on, let me see what that... Yeah, look. We still don't have all the data also for Delta. But if you are unvaccinated, those numbers are higher. And if you're vaccinated, those numbers are drastically lower. We're talking significantly lower percentiles. We don't need to worry about age and comorbidity. Most of the elderly are vaccinated or are dead from this. We're talking about the children and the side effects. And again, it's not just the deaths. If you only talk about the deaths, you're downplaying the other issues that this virus has. Or your Ben Shapiro and his nonsense take about this was just wrong. You can't just hand wave this away and say, oh, it's like a flu. It's not. It's going to keep swirling in high volume around the people who are unvaccinated. And the more it does that, the more likely it is going to evolve. And the more it evolves, the more likelihood we're going to deal with a case that can break through vaccines. If you think it is difficult to get people vaccinated now, what is going to happen if in 6 months' time we find we find simultaneously a booster and a variant that can break through the vaccine? Or if you don't get the booster, do you think people are going to do that? No. Look, we have so many issues facing this planet, the planet, that crying about taking a free vaccine or putting on a mask, at this point, I don't care. If you want to not do these things, good for you. I hope you win your Darwin Award. Because at this point, you are not only a threat to yourself and those around you, you're a threat to humanity. And not because of COVID being an ultimate threat that's going to wipe us out. It's because your sheer stupidity to deal with basic information is so high. And your inability to do the slightest things to help your fellow man is so low that when it comes to us actually having to deal with truly drastic changes that are going to need to occur for us to deal with some of the actual issues, the true present humanity-ending issues, you'll be unable to do it because you are too selfish. So it's good. Let's cull the herd of these people. And I don't give a shit if this gets clipped or someone has an issue with it. At this point, every death in this country is pretty much preventable. If you are not under 12 or have immunocompromised when your doctor says don't take the vaccine, you should be vaccinated. And then you should wear a mask pretty much everywhere. If you refuse to do either of those things, you are a child. No, actually, that's not even true, because children are more responsible than you. You are a selfish piece of shit, and every single death around you is probably your fault. And you are now a drain on the society. Remember how you're told that you keep telling us immigrants are coming to drain our society. You're purposely getting sick to this virus. You are a drain on our resources. We don't have time to coddle you and hold your hand through all of this. We're a year into this. If you want to go eat horse paste, go eat the horse paste. At this point, you're naturally selecting yourself out of the gene pool, and it will be better for everyone at the end. I don't care. There's so many other things that we have to deal with that we don't have time to talk to every idiot down about this. There have been study after study that show that this is effective. Not doing it because somebody told you to or some commentator. Listen, with the exception of probably Candace Owens, every single one of these people on TV are vaccinated. That's why well, actually, you know what? It's possible Marjorie Taylor Greene is not vaccinated because I do believe she actually does believe it's a HIPAA violation to tell you. But the rest of them are. Now let's go to Rand Paul. Rand Paul is going to get people killed. And I hope somebody sues him for this. It's also worth, and I hope his neighbor goes and visits him again.
It's time for us to resist. They can't arrest all of us. They can't keep all of your kids home from school.
They can't arrest all of us. Why not? You know who's number one when it comes to jailing people? We're number one. We're number one. They're not also arguing to arrest you. This is not resistance. At this point, if you're following what Rand Paul is about to tell you, you're cheering for the virus.
They can't keep every government building closed, although I've got a long list of ones they might keep closed or might audit.
Keep in mind, Rand Paul shuts down the government whenever he wants. Look, I don't care. It's going to get its approval by the end, either the end of this month or the end of next month. What's the death rate? It's like 4 total people. That's it. There's no data to prove that this is again and again we have to discuss it. For the vaccine to be worse than COVID, what's the classification for pandemic? I don't know. I'm pretty sure we hit that a while ago. Why are you asking this a year in?
Keep closed. We don't have to accept the mandates, lockdowns, and harmful policies of the petty tyrants and bureaucrats. We can simply say no, not again. Nancy Pelosi, you will not arrest or stop me or anyone on my staff from doing our jobs. We have either had COVID, had the vaccine.
She's not doing that either. That was a memo, as far as I know, that was sent out erroneously. I don't think anyone's actually been arrested for that. Also, Rand Paul, you're a senator. And as for the natural immunity, they just said yesterday, if you get COVID and then you get vaccinated, the vaccine actually will protect you more because you already have had COVID. So you're double protected. And people who've gotten COVID twice.
Vaccine or been offered the vaccine. We will make our own health choices. We will not show you a passport.
National death rates for what? Show me what you're looking at. There's too much nonsense data out there. I looked this up because I have this argument.
We will not wear a mask. We will not be forced into random screenings and testings so you can continue your drunk with power reign over the Capitol. President Biden, We will not accept your agency's mandates or your reported moves towards a lockdown. No one should follow the CDC's anti-science mask mandates. And if you want to shut down federal agencies again, some of which...
Look, once again, this is an argument I constantly have with people. If you're going to come in here and tell me I'm wrong, have some goddamn data to prove it. Don't tell me look up national death rates. We're not talking about death rates. The death rates to be vaccinated are significantly less than if you're unvaccinated. What's your point? I don't care. There was also more deaths from heart attacks than COVID. If you have an auto accident, how many does that spread to 8 other people every single time? This is such a stupid argument. I'm not arguing it's the number one killer. I don't care what the national death rates are. This is the middle of a pandemic. These are the scientific facts. If you can't handle these, you will not be able to handle when it comes to dealing with climate. Again, show me some data.
which aren't even back to work yet, I will stop every bill coming through the Senate with an amendment to cut their funding if they don't come back to work in person. Local bureaucrats and union bosses, we will not allow you to do more harm to our children again this year. Children are not
Okay. First off, the death rates are about to go up. They have already started going up. The vaccine is also about to... What is this? Is this worth my time? Does this have anything to do with what we're talking about? Yeah, I don't need to see. Nancy Mace is a liar. Hold on. Let's go with this. Let me deal with these one at a time. So what is your point of the PCR testing? So the numbers are trending up to people who died from COVID. Yeah, we're still looking into it. No, climate is not a hoax. There was a massive, massive study that just came out today. What is your point? We're not talking about PCR. Again, you're just bouncing all over the place. We're not talking about PCR testing. It has nothing to do with anything. And when did they say that? If you're going to give me quotes from things, give me the actual quotes. All right, so let's move on from climate, because this has gotten us nowhere, to infrastructure. Now, Josh Hawley's supposed to be a populist. Remember, he's the right-wing populist. Not the Nazi one, but a right-wing populist anyway. Now, what the bill is referring to...
It's not really about infrastructure at all.
...is the bipartisan one. We've determined it. There's other testing than PCR testing. What is your argument here? Is your argument that what we don't have COVID? I don't know what the other testing methods are. I haven't looked into that. I don't know what you're talking. I need to understand, what is your argument? Hold on. Is PCR. It's reliable. January. Oh, April. Fact check. The WHO did not say PCR test is unreliable. Oh, look. Here you are being wrong again. So, this has proved you're wrong, so we're done here. This is why I tell you to back up what you're saying, because you're wrong. Show me where it says that. Okay. In the same way that you're going to argue what? That masks don't work?
All. It's about woke.
All right, you know what? New test. Viral post misrepresents CDC announcement. First off, it doesn't matter that the climate hasn't gone up. It is, at this point, an irreversible trend for at least a century. And that is assuming we act right now to cut things down. I'm researching right now, and it's proving you right here. They encourage new tests that detect both COVID-19 and the flu. False. PCR tests are considered the gold standard for coronavirus testing. CDC announced this year will withdraw its request for FDA for emergency use for only one PCR test. Not because the test is inaccurate, because it's only detect coronavirus. The FDA has approved roughly 280 PCR coronavirus tests, which determine whether sequence from the So look, here again, I'm proving you wrong. For some newer coronavirus tests can also now simultaneously show whether the patient is positive for influenza. It will no longer request emergency use authorization. Here's me proving you wrong again and again and again. This is why I tell you to actually give me some fucking facts, because if you don't, you sound like an idiot when I look into them. And I don't want to have to spend my time looking into them to prove to you that you're an idiot. One of the many FDA-authorized alternatives, and says it encourages laboratories to consider adoption of multiplex methods that can facilitate detection and differentiate. But the CDC did not say it was no longer supporting the use of PCR tests in general, many of which have been authorized by the FDA, or that its original PCR test of the cause can't tell the difference between coronavirus and influenza. As viral posts online, you should actually do your research. Fucking idiots. So, hold on. Let me guess what just happened there. That person is. Because I think we just lost another one, boys. Because let's be clear for anyone who's new here. Conservatives are always welcome. But if you're going to have an argument with me, I would prefer you to have some actual facts. Which he did not have, and therefore he was wrong. Okay, you're a Nazi, so you're getting banned. Wow, we're having a good day with this stuff. Anyway, let's go to Josh Hawley. Anyone else want to, have to mouth off about something else? Anyone else want to argue some point that they don't have the data to back up?
Politics. Why is President Biden so enthusiastically for it? Because it advances his far left agenda. The Green New Deal.
This is the bipartisan infrastructure. This is not a Green New Deal or a far left agenda. This was written pretty much by Rob Portman and Kyrsten Sinema, who are basically Republicans. Well, Rob Portman's a Republican.
Elements of it across this bill. The climate change agenda, it's stuffed into this bill. Quotas for this, that, and the other in this bill. So this is a bill that is about the woke political agenda.
It's really good that the guy who's arguing that this is a woke political agenda is using terms like, oh, this, that, and the other, and not actually giving you real information to what's in it.
Of the left. It is being paid for with this massive pork barrel spending, and I just hope Republicans will open their eyes to what's actually in the bill.
Also, the reason this is so the CBO score came out for this is something like $300 billion in deficit spending. Now, keep in mind, this bill would be paid off for in less than 2 years if we just funded the IRS. This bill would be paid off if we raised the corporate tax rate and reverse the Trump tax cuts. Those are just two ways to deal with this. If you don't want to do any of those, you don't get to complain that it is deficit spending, especially after the Trump administration raised the federal budget by $7 trillion. The federal deficit by $7 trillion. This guy is supposed to be the woke populist one. When you're going to have a right-left alliance, the answer is you have it about solutions, not about the issues. Because his solution, they're arguing about infrastructure. First off, no. We don't know we got COVID from there. I mean, it came from China. Whether China created it is different. We do need to deal with China. Yes, absolutely. But we can do it here first. We can start the market and be the global hegemonic power that has control over this ability. We do have to deal with China. We have to deal with a lot of things. But arguing that any type of green technology is communism or woke leftist is just, at this point, you're not even just wrong. You're actively propagating the end of our species.
When you get a bill this late in the process that's 2,700 plus pages long, sometimes it's tempting not to actually look and see what's in the bill.
Not only do I not believe it is tempting, I don't believe he has looked into what's bill. That's why you get such words as you're a there's this, that, and the other in it.
Folks should look and see what's in this bill. I think it's going to be awfully hard to explain to Republican voters that we have gone along, or some Republicans have gone along with this kind of an agenda, this sort of a social agenda, this kind of pork barrel spending. And so I think it's absolutely vital that Republicans take a principled stand and say we're not going to be part of Joe Biden's left-wing agenda. We're not going to advance his woke political agenda.
Joe Biden's left-wing agenda is to build bridges and roads and give people broadband. That's what the populist is against. Right-wing populism is not a thing. Here is Maria Bartiromo talking to, I think he voted for this bill.
Well, wrong. Let's look at what's in the bill. First of all, let me ask you, is there any money in this bill that goes to the border? Is there any acknowledgement from the Biden administration that we're in a border crisis and he needs to address it?
This is an infrastructure bill. Infrastructure is not the border.
Any money here in the border? Because I see resilience and water storage, environmental remediation, energy department, power infrastructure, electric vehicles, nuclear companies, a lot of beginnings to the Green New Deal.
Well, first of all, cybersecurity and resiliency of the grid is not exclusive to the Green New Deal. I think we've all experienced the problems with a lack of resiliency to our energy infrastructure. I mean, the Colonial Pipeline cyber attack was a pretty good example of that. Now, are there some things that Democrats like? For sure. Are there some things missing that we would love? Of course there are. But this is a 50-50 Senate. Democrats have a majority in the House and the White House. So you're going to have to, take some of those things to get all the other really good things.
Okay, but there's a difference between whether it's a lab or an animal.
And all of those other things that you've referenced aren't, again, exclusively democratic principles. There are some other things some of those things that contribute to the overall infrastructure of our country. And this is all hard infrastructure, Maria. You might argue with some of it. I don't like the electric vehicle charging stations, for example. If I was king, I wouldn't support that. But fortunately, our founders gave us something other than a king.
Well, you're not a king. None of the Republicans are king, but it certainly seems like the Democrats act like kings. In addition to all of that money.
No, they don't. If they acted like kings, then Joe Manchin would be in line and we wouldn't even be playing around with this bill. And it would be way bigger.
Beginning a Green New Deal, it also dictates rules in areas that have traditionally been managed by local authorities, like drinking water, even as it muscles in on private sector enterprises like broadband. So once again, we see the Democrats taking power away from the governors and putting it on the federal level.
Look, I think there's certain things that need to be nationalized. The pharmaceutical industry would be one of them. Healthcare would be one of them, and the energy grid should be one of them. Other than that, we can have conversations. But having them as private infrastructure, having them as private investors has not been effective. We covered this on Friday. The number one country that comes to paying for healthcare to get the worst out of it is America. We are been the bottom basically for a decade. I'm glad you enjoy your freedom to go bankrupt if you get hurt. No other country deals with that. No, let me rephrase that. No developed country deals with that. So let's take a look at what we know about the $3.5 trillion budget resolution. Schumer on Monday released the full text of Democrats' $3.5 budget resolution, which the Senate is expected to pass without Republican votes early as this week. Oh, that'd be good. Passing the resolution is the first significant step to enacting Democrats' plans to overhaul the country's climate, child care, healthcare laws through the Budget Reconciliation Project. A reconciliation bill can't be filibustered and requires a simple majority of 50 votes. Now, whatever is in this bill will probably be shrunk down because Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema don't want us to have nice things. Let's be clear. Joe Manchin is going to put the climate at stake for $500,000. The resolution provides a target date of September 15 for the committees to submit their reconciliation legislation. It does not include language that would lift the debt limit. This means Senate Democrats face an ugly fight with Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republicans, as they will need. So look, I don't know why they did this. They absolutely should do this. The less that you have to deal with Republicans, the better. They will not vote to this. They will burn this country to the ground before they do this. And they're trying. They're currently trying. The agreement reached by Schumer in the White House states that $3.5 trillion will be fully offset by a combination of new tax revenue, healthcare savings, and long-term economic growth. It prohibits new taxes on families making less than $400,000 per year and small businesses and family farms. Here's a breakdown of how much money is allocated to each committee. At least $1 billion in deficit reduction. This will provide the committee with flexibility to make investments, revenues, and offset decisions consistent with the policy recommendations. Corporate and international tax reform, taxing high-income individuals, IRS tax enforcements, healthcare savings, and carbon polluter import fees. Now, the healthcare savings is basically the giving Medicare the ability to negotiate drug prices. The corporate tax rate. There's currently a push to have a universal corporate tax rate of no lower than 15%. What they'll do for it here is hopefully raise it higher. Taxing income individuals. IRS tax enforcement. Putting $80 billion into the IRS to beef up its ability to go after these people will ultimately offset somewhere between $700 billion and $1 trillion a year. That seems like a pretty good investment. Carbon polluter tax, that's great. $760 billion for universal pre-K for 3 to 4 year olds, healthcare, childcare, tuition-free community college. I don't know what almost any of these acronyms stand for. Increasing the maximum Pell Grant Award, school infrastructure, student success grants, educator investments. Yeah, we should pandemic preparedness, which is good. Workforce development and job training, labor enforcement and penalties, and civilian climate corps funding. Yes, let's do this. It is time to build a civilian climate corps to both motivate jobs and to deal with this climate. Investment, $198 billion for clean electricity, consumer rebates to weatherize and electrify homes. Now, this could be a problem because I think there's a program under the Obama administration they did. John Oliver did a piece on this, where it's used to incorrectly, and people end up paying for getting repairs that they can't afford. So that's the Fast and Furious scandal, right? I haven't actually looked into that, but generally the general IRS is that Joe Obama also had a scandal for wearing a tan suit that Joe Biden did not. So I'm not, and also for putting honey mustard on his or Dijon mustard on his hot dog. So I would let me take a look. Obama. A settlement that still waits a federal judge's approval. The IRS expressed superior apologies for mistreating a conservative organization called Lynchpin, along with 40 other groups in the application. Oh, well, that shouldn't be new. We do that type of shit all the time. Energy Committee. Clean Energy's auto supply chain technology, federal procedures for energy efficient materials, climate research, hard rock mining, and Department of Interior programs. $130 billion for conservation, drought. One showed up? Oh. If only we didn't have a history of doing things that like arming far right groups and other groups that ended up coming to bite us in the ass. If only that was a one thing. If only. But it's good because we don't actually intervene in other fucking countries. Yeah. And are we gonna look at Iran-Contra or how we armed the Mujahideen, or how we ultimately led to Al-Qaeda being effective because we armed them, or any of the revolutionaries that we've armed in South Africa to overthrow, or South America to overthrow leftist policies? Okay, yeah. I'm sure we've done that in this millennium as well. We're literally fighting a war against these people that we've armed. Homeland, let's see, environmental. Look, this is good. 18 billion. My biggest issue with this is A, it's not big enough, and B, I don't understand why they didn't do it through, they didn't put the debt ceiling in it. So, here's the Democrats going to light this on fire, but first we're going to look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene calls everything the Green New Deal. Marjorie Taylor Greene also believes that communism is capitalism and doesn't understand anything. So I've been warning for a long time about the Green New Deal and how dangerous it is for America. Literally will enslave us to China in many ways. Republican senators bragging about pro-partnership are foolishly helping the Democrats achieve their communist agenda. Now, yes, it is technically true that she has been warning about the Green New Deal for a while. However, Marjorie Taylor Greene did not know what was in the Green New Deal until about 4 or 5 months ago. How do we know this? She publicly argued to debate AOC with it. And AOC said, have you read it? And then she made a big deal about reading the 14 pages in it. Yeah, so if we put research into... Yeah. We can look into the research to figure out how to create them otherwise. And yes, obviously that is going to be a problem. But we can figure out how to do other ways to get around there. Should other people? So if we have to deal with China, then we have to deal with China. I'm going to be blatantly honest with you. If there is some type of totalitarian control of the planet in order to deal with climate change, I would be okay with that. Just to deal with that issue. We deal with whatever came after it after. This just scared the shit out of me today. Anyway, let's watch the Democrats light this one on fire. Look, it's probably the worst take I'm gonna have. This shit is like unbelievably depressing. So, moderate House Dems are raising concerns that the Democratic budget plans that would pave the way for the 3.5 are also calling on Pelosi to give an immediate vote on the infrastructure bill and not tie it to the reconciliation to the package. We applaud the work of the bipartisan group of senators and Biden administration. So here's the thing. These Democratic moderates are the reason we ended up with the issues we did for part of the reason we ended up with the issues we did on the moratorium, because they refused to take a vote and they wanted to go home. Now they're saying we need to vote on just the bipartisan bill and not the reconciliation package as well. And the reason they're saying is because they're going to be against the reconciliation package. However, the problem with this is they can't just ignore the progressives. You have to play ball now, because the House majority is so slim that the progressives can sink this bill if they want to. It's about flexing some muscle. If Joe Manchin can threaten to sink the American Rescue Plan, yeah, they're literally gridlocking themselves for progress. It is unbelievable. There is nobody more destructive to this country than fucking moderates. Moderation is what's gotten us into so many issues. This idea that we're going to pass an infrastructure bill and not deal with anything to do with climate is just wild. Because you know what happens when we've ignored climate for this? This is in Greece. This is looking like a horror movie. Oh, I'm fighting for democracy. I want democracy to win. I want us to deal with these things. We have unbelievable issues. I'm so angry about the short-sightedness of this country, and that these people will kill this bill because of some absurd notions that they've had. Guess what? We have too many problems now. Bipartisanship is not the answer. Every time we do something bipartisan, it gets worse. Trump is not going to win in 2024. If Trump wins in 2024, we are so fucked, it is not even funny. We should be focusing in Africa. That would help us as well. But we can do it here. We need to stop subsidizing these. Look, the report that came out, there's also one that's coming out, I believe, as well, that will help us tell, how we're supposed to deal with the CO2 and how we're supposed to. Look, we have American ingenuity. It is time to we dropped the ball for 50 years. It's time to do this. Anyone arguing against, pursuing green energy or shifting to a nuclear energy first and then to green energy and dealing with the carbon, whatever it takes. If we have to cut back on the way we produce meat, we cut back on the way we produce meat. We have to cut back on how the cars we drive, we put that money. You have to put whatever, because look, it's going to get worse. The outcome of spending the money now to deal with this versus ignoring it. No, it's not. 100 companies produce 70% of all the world's pollution. This is to be a worldwide effort, and America needs to be the ones leading this. It is as simple as that. So, we're about done with all of this. So, what we stand here is a couple of ways. For those of you who are new and missed please subscribe if you can. If you don't want to put the money in, then you can tie your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account. If you do subscribe, then you will be able to do our conspiracy theory episode. Please follow if you can. Please join the Discord if you are new so we can have other discussions. As for what's coming up, we will have something like... I thought thorium is pretty good. But we do need to have... we do need to have some type of bridge before we get our green energy. I think nuclear is that we have. But it's not ultimately. So, what do we have coming up? We have a debate sometime this week with Habeas Humor. I will also have a debate sometime this week with Blind Tio. I'm trying to save their children's lives. The planet is literally on fire and it is only going to get hotter. Some of this stuff in that report says this. Some of these things are irreversible for at least a century, and that's if we stop. We can only hold it to 1.5%. This is trying to save your children's lives. Moving to green energy will give them a planet to live on. We're not colonizing Mars in the next 10 years. We have one planet. It's time that we save it. We should have also, if you want to have, give me debate topics for talking to North Countrymen while we do the Hans, the chess timer debate, or when North Countrymen and I have a conversation anyway. Feel free to, drop them here, drop them in the Discord, drop them in, on the Twitter at Faces Ideas, and I will look into them. As for, also, I think we should have the debate with, what's it called? Crowdsource Politics on Thursday, and then Sunday we should have the Independent Thought debate. So we have a lot of stuff coming up. I apologize if I was a little more aggressive this stream. There's a lot going on. It's made me very upset. Did I say that? I've never argued for that. I don't drive a Tesla. Probably should drive it. Or an electric car. We do need to, I've already said multiple times that we need to be leading this and it's a worldwide issue. But arguing that any of it is bad or any of it is socialism at this point look, we can no longer entertain the debate that climate change is not real. We can only entertain how much can we mitigate from it. And ignoring it or not doing anything or making it worse is just not the right answer. It just really... Sorry, guys. All right, anyway. Thank you for being here today. I will be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. EST. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will